As we continue on with our season of basketball and interviewing coaches from the DAC-12 Conference in Class A, we continue on with the girls' coaches. As this past week, I got to sit down with freshly new head coach Jeff Neuharth of the Elk Point-Jefferson Husky girls basketball team. Now, Coach Neuharth is no stranger when it comes to Elk Point-Jefferson, was a longtime assistant coach with Jake Odkin before making this transition to the girls team. At the time, his crew was 5-4, but a very experienced but still young Elk Point-Jefferson Huskies team was looking to make an impact. And this interview, you'll hear more about the youth and as it continues to grow, and just like the boys, how winning during the fall season translates to the winter season. Here he is with our coaches' interviews from the DAC-12 Conference. It's head coach of the Elk Point-Jefferson Husky girls basketball team, Jeff Neuharth. Well, Coach, as you get ready for a tough Vermillion Tanagers team, before we talk much about that, let's first talk about the season so far. Team coming in overall 5-4. How nice has it been to play a majority of your games so far this season, not dealing with as many snow issues as the rest of the state?
Yeah, it's great to be able to play and kind of got off to a little bit of a tough start with some having to be rescheduled, but it's always good to get into a flow of practicing and then playing when the games are scheduled, because the kids are preparing to play. And then when you get rescheduled, everything kind of gets out of whack. And when you're rescheduling, if the date that you rescheduled to was, that ideal of a date, the game probably would have been on that time in the first place. So, yeah, very fortunate to be kind of right where we would be. We're just one off of having to make one more up, but it's good to make them up as quick as you can so you kind of stay on course. And as the season goes on, everybody knows it kind of becomes a little bit of a grind kind of in that area right now. So you want to play them as scheduled and not be backfilled with a bunch of games. So very fortunate in that regard. And then very fortunate that the teams we had to reschedule with, everything worked out, because I know that's kind of tough to do for ADs and everybody involved, officials as well. So, yeah, very fortunate to be where we are right now as far as games played, for sure.
Yeah, 5-4 coming in to this point right now at this season. Just first looking at your team as well, something that jumps out immediately to me with this group of girls is how many of them were a part of the state tournament team for volleyball. And that's always a special accomplishment, especially with Elk Point-Jefferson. I know they weren't one of the odds-on favorites even to make the state tournament, and just the extreme success that they have had. Coach, how much has that translated over into the game of basketball this season?
Yeah. Well, in success kind of leads to success. So you definitely have kids that are used to being in big game opportunities, big situations, understand the importance of every play, regardless of what sport they're in. And it's a very good group of kids that are involved in a lot of things throughout the school. So yeah, great to have them make that run and then kind of go right into the basketball season. And then any, kind of talk before we got on, any opportunity where you can have the atmosphere and the feel of a big game situation is always going to be, advantageous down the line, no matter what sport it is or what that situation is.
Yeah, you talk about that experience of just being able to play with volleyball, and then you look at this group of girls and you just go, whoa, all of them seem like they're sophomores or freshmen out there. There's not a lot of seniors that are on this squad, only a couple that we really, or three that we see. How much is that nice being able to have experience with this group of girls on the basketball court already, as they've been able to build over the past couple of years?
Yeah, yep. And this little group here has kind of been playing. It's my first year, but they've been kind of playing together. And I think we have a great mix of kids that have been playing together that have a lot of basketball experience and just sports experience, kind of like you said, from volleyball, getting on the floor. And then you mix in the seniors that have that experience of having done it for 2 years, longer. So you have a good balance of leadership both ways, both on the court, with seniors, sophomores, juniors, and then we even have younger kids, that have been heavily involved as well. So I think it's it's a good blend. It took us a little bit and kind of always working to find all the pieces to get them in the right spot. But yeah, it's definitely good leadership all the way around.
And I should probably have started there as well. With you being a first-year head coach with these basketball girls, how has that change been? Have you enjoyed it so far? And kind of what has it been like getting used to now the basketball grind? Because, I mean, you're a coach in other sports, but what's the basketball scene been like so far?
Yeah, it was good. I was assistant for the boys when we came down here, and then now head for the girls. So I think you're kind of around the kids, and you watch them play as you're preparing with the boys, and you kind of know but it's not the same as when you just get in there and then you're actually watching kind of with a different kind of eyes, I guess, with an assessment stuff. So a little bit to kind of get used to, a different system and a couple of changes, here and there. So it took a little bit to get going, but I think we're kind of finding our way here pretty good. And I don't think that took, too terribly long for those things to happen. And you don't want it to take that long for the kids' sake. Every year is this, the seniors last year, you only get one junior year, sophomore year, and so on. So you have to, get the assessment right away, which we did kind of in the summer, and then kind of see what direction you want to go. So I think all in all, that has been pretty good. And I've certainly enjoyed working with the girls without a doubt, as I had, working with the boys years prior.
Well, you talk about this group of girls as well, and just looking at what they have been doing so far this season. I mean, we talk about 3 girls that are either double figures or right at double figures, which means you can spread out the ball very nicely. How has this group of girls kind of blended together and being able to go so deep into the bench as well?
Yeah, I think our contributions, like we kind of talked about a little bit in the Ponca game, that's something we said after the game. Good, hard-fought game for us. Disappointing that we didn't come away with the victory at the end, but a lot of growth done in the course of that game, and then just kind of getting the kids to all understand that no matter what in those kind of games you're doing for us, your role is to happen to be that game. It's going to help us. Some people are going to score a little bit more. Some people are going to rebound a little bit more. But whatever little thing you can do to contribute is certainly needed. So I think in that regard, the girls have really shared the ball very well, and they're good at kind of finding who is, has the hot hand at that time, or who is really making it happen, whether it be offensively or defensively. And that's kind of like every team, you'd never know who that person or who those people are going to be until the game gets going.
Yeah, you mentioned as well that Ponca game, due to weather, a makeup for Vermillion, so they play a little bit later in the season than earlier in the season. Of course, you just got done playing Ponca as well. How much do you draw back on that game, looking at film as well with Vermillion in that game, and how much do you try to draw from similarities, and maybe that's something you can use against Ponca that worked well, that maybe you can use against the Vermillion Tanagers?
Yeah, and you kind of watch that film two ways. First, we're watching it for Ponca. What did Vermillion do that was effective for them against Ponca to come away with the victory? And then you kind of rewatch it and think, what did Ponca do, to Vermillion to kind of help? I think the biggest thing for us playing Ponca to Vermillion is the defensive styles and the length of both teams. Both teams have pretty good length when they come at you with their pressure and that stuff. It's kind of, you can't simulate the length of kids unless you have that actually in your gym, and we have some of those kids as well. But I think the defensive side, what they brought against us defensively, because both teams are very good defensively, and they try to cause turnovers, and they come at you in many different ways, both in zone, full court, man, full court, run and jump stuff. So I think that against Ponca really, hopefully helps us going into Vermillion, and hopefully we learn from some of the things we did against Ponca, knowing that we can't do those same things tomorrow night. Just
getting ready for the Vermillion Tanagers. This interview, by the way, is happening Monday afternoon before the official media polls are released. So I guess, Coach, you're about to hear something that we shouldn't be telling anybody until 5 o'clock. But Vermillion is ranked now number 2 in Class A. They've made that jump up 2 spots from 4 where they were last week. You talk about this size that Vermillion has had. It seems like it has been that as of late they've been able to rely on, but yet they're able to really get it done with their speed speed defensively that you mentioned when watching just the Vermillion Tanagers and other film. What has you spooked a little bit that you know you're going to have a tough time going up against the Tanagers?
Well, we're going to have to be, we're going to have to be really good offensively. I think they make it very difficult for teams to score, even the teams that are scoring. Wagner was able to score points, but nothing really comes easy. And you have to understand that it's a long game. They're going to come at you in waves, and you got to withstand their little runs and not let them prolong and get longer, and stay mentally solid. And then we have to account for all of their kids. I mean, they have some kids that are, their go-to kids. I'm sure Coach Brooks, who does a phenomenal job, he's got kids he wants to go to. But one thing I noticed is they are really a complete team. I mean, you can't leave anybody. A kid might, have 5 points for them, but those are the biggest 5 points of the game. So we have to really account for everyone. And they kind of are, we're building what we think is a complete team as well. So, but I think offensively, we're going to have to really be crisp and sharp and make sure we take care of the ball and are able to score.
And continuing off of that, one thing I think you hit on pretty well is how balanced their bench scoring can be. When all of a sudden you have this girl that comes off the bench and puts up 10, you're like, well, we didn't even really think about her abilities to shoot that well on just that given night. Then the next night she goes out and maybe gets 1 or 2 points. How much does your bench have to play a factor if you'd want to upset the Tanagers?
Yeah, and I think our bench has done a really good job coming in defensively for us. We're going to have to find some offense from them. I mean, we certainly have kids that are capable and have done that. But we're going to have to, when we come in ready. We talked about being shot ready, being ready to make the play when the play comes to you. I think that's, another thing that they're really good at. The kids make their 1 or 2 plays for Vermillion when their time comes. And we're going to have to be able to do the same. And then we're going to have to be good defensively as well. I mean, they're efficient offensively, so we're going to have to, hold them down like we were able to kind of defend really well against Ponca and those sort of things. So I think it should be, we hope that it's kind of a defensive game and both teams are working hard to get points. But, going against a team like Vermillion, Ponca, those teams, they only make you better for the future. So, we'll come out and hopefully compete hard and then get better because of it and put on hopefully a good show for the fans and for you guys covering the game.
And you talk about the future as well, and that's kind of what I want to lead off of and kind of wrap up this interview. This has been a unique schedule when it comes to Elk Point-Jefferson. It seems like you guys hit it so hard right away in the DAC-12 with games right in kind of those first 4 or 5 games of the season. Then all of a sudden you have these Class B teams, some of the best Class B teams out there in the state of South Dakota before you really finish off hard with the DAC-12 once again. How important does this game set the tone for the back end of your season?
It's big. Our non-conference opponents are very good also this year, and I think anytime any DAC-12 conference team is going to be competitive. They're going to be good, and anytime if you have to go on the road against any team, it's going to be a big deal. So we're fortunate to have Vermillion in our gym. And I think, every game kind of builds on itself. You want to keep improving from every game and kind of clean up the things that, maybe didn't do so well the game before, knowing that there's always going to be something. Nobody's going to play the perfect game. I'm sure, Coach Brooks is cleaning up things that he felt they didn't do well, against Wagner. So you just want to keep moving forward and limit the mistakes, get a little sharper in certain areas with every game. And good opponents like Vermillion, they help you do that. They help you grow as a team and then grow as an individual player.
Once again, that was Jeff Neuharth, first-year head coach of the Elk Point-Jefferson Huskies, as at the time his girls were 5-4 on the season and preparing to take on the Vermillion Tanagers. Always great catching up with both Elk Point-Jefferson Huskies boys and girls coaches. You can also catch head coach Jake Otkin of the Elk Point-Jefferson boys as he talked with us also on the same day that head coach Jeff Neuharth did. I'm Heath Nimke with more interviews from the the DAC-12 Conference, make sure you tune back here to 605sports.com and also be watching our YouTube page on LiveTicket.Tv for more interviews throughout the basketball season. For 605 Sports and LiveTicket.Tv, I'm Heath Nimke.